the things that I have found very helpful both for me and for my students has been doing overview pages. So if you were to look at my whole course and every module, it's got this overview page listed first. And you'll also see that I make it required for the students to view the overview page before they can progress to the next module, in an effort to actually make sure that they've at least opened the page, if not also looked at all the stuff in there. But I really like these pages. Quayle actually introduced these to me first, and I think John might have designed them, so thanks to the TLC. But they all basically look kind of the same. It's whatever chapter or chapters we're doing that week, kind of general overview. I've got the learning objectives for that week. And then I've got the section that includes all of the readings for that week. So we're doing 2 chapters here. I list the chapter as well as I provide my PowerPoint slides to my students. So the one thing that I'll notice or explain about why there are 3 of these things after this is that either last term or last fall, a couple of my students approached me and said that they weren't able to see all of the information on my PowerPoint slides. And we believe this is because the student didn't have PowerPoint on their computer and they weren't Aporto users. And so because I have animations on my PowerPoint slides, they just didn't get all of the content that was in my PowerPoint slides. So now, to try and address this issue, I include the PowerPoints in PowerPoint form. Then I also save them as a PDF and link those. And then this notes piece is actually the handout setting. So I do the 3 slides with the lines next to it so they can take notes. So it's my hope that between all 3 of these, that now all of my students, no matter what kind of computer or programs they have, will be able to access all the content on my slides. And then I also had like an additional article for them to read related to this chapter. So any of the reading stuff goes here. The additional learning materials are generally the things that I want them to watch or to listen to. I do record my lectures kind of like this, and so they're usually 5 or 6 videos. I make them their own page. I link them here. I also do some of the LinkedIn learning videos. I might do TED Talks. I might do podcasts. So any of that visual or audio stuff gets put in additional learning materials. And then I have the learning activities. So that's anything that's going to be due that week. So for this week, they had to do kind of a get to know you discussion board as well as a regular discussion board. They needed to read the instructions for their big kind of paper for the term and then take a quiz on those instructions. So hoping to check that they actually read and understood them. And then I always include these other items where these are the things that are usually coming up in the next week or 2. So for this class, right, they had something they had to pay for, so I remind them that's coming up. I also remind them they need to select a date to do this activity. And then for every week up until any particular exam and including that week the exam occurs, I include consider reviewing the midterm study guide or the final study guide, whichever one it is. So that way they always have access to the study guide. And so hopefully some of them will actually work on it as the term goes along, but it's always there for them no matter what module they're going into. I also mentioned they have an activity coming up so they can look at it. They can also look at the pre-activity work. And then lastly, I include, this is going to be the first part of their big paper. I break it down into 4 assignments. This assignment is going to be the next one to come up. So I remind them, hey, this is coming up. You might want to take a look at it and be thinking about it now. And then lastly, I typically offer extra credit in my classes. And so I put any of that extra credit at the bottom of these pages, and it just sort of continues throughout the term. If there are other things I only have 1 right now, but there may be other things that I include additionally. So I think actually these 2, the learning activities and the other items, are probably 2 of the most helpful sections for students, just so that They always know what is going to be due that week, and they also have a sense of what's coming up, so they can be looking forward in terms of making sure that, yes, I've completed everything for this week, and yes, I'm aware of what's coming up in the next week or two. And lastly, I also always put a to-do date on my overview pages so that when the student comes into their Canvas page, they actually have the overview page listed on that right-hand column of their to-do items. So again, it's one more way for me to try and make sure that they're getting to these pages. And of course, the fact that they're required to view it also helps to make sure that they've seen it and hopefully can keep up that way without having to scour the syllabus every week. I have two things that I like to do in terms of checking that my Canvas course is set up properly for the term. And the first of those is to activate the multi-tool. So that's just going into your navigation, making sure that it's activated, and then clicking multi-tool. And I like this due date modifier. So I can go in, and as this pulls everything up, it will allow me in one quick shot to see all of the due dates for the assignments. And the reason I like this so much is that because I transfer a lot of my courses, like from, last spring, I'll transfer it to the fall. I can just come in here, and if I want to sort, just the discussion boards, I can do that. And then I can just make sure all the dates are correct for the current term as opposed to the one previously. So it saves me a lot of time. It also lets me make sure if I wanted to show or hide answers in quizzes that I've done that. So that's one thing I like to do to check that my course is set up. And then the other thing that I just adore is under the settings, the validate links in content. And so it says restart because I've done this about 100 times. But when I click on it, or when you click on it, it basically shows me every link that doesn't seem to be working. And that includes, as you'll see here, the unpublished content. So it not only lets me know, like, for example, if for some reason a file didn't transfer over from a previous Canvas course, but I have it linked somewhere, but then it's not really linked anywhere. This lets me know that. It'll say, hey, this file isn't properly linked, or it's not going to work. So I can just click on the finding and go into that page and relink it properly. Or it'll let me know if I forgot to actually hit publish on something. Then that way, again, I can just click on the assignment, publish it, hit the restart link validation, and I just keep doing that until it's empty. There's no broken links found. So it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable that my course has been set up properly, and hopefully it will help both myself and the students run into less technical issues along the way. Something I have found to be helpful both for me and for my students is to actually enter my grading scale into Canvas. So I always make sure in settings under the course details tab that I clicked the enable course grading scheme. I actually go in and edit it to be my own. Whoops, sorry, that's not what I want. I'll put in my own grading scale since it's a little different than the one that Canvas provides. And then you can see in the student view that they now can see the percentage that they've got, which is normal, and then they can also see what that equates to in terms of a letter grade based on the grading scale that I entered. So I kind of like that. So again, they have a good sense of where they are grade-wise, both in terms of that percentage as well as where that's going to fall on the letter scale. And then this piece also shows up in the total in my grade book. So when I go in to mine, and I won't just because there's all sorts of student information, when I go into my grade book now, it'll give me the total percentage as well as the letter grade. So it's kind of nice for me that at the end of the term, when I have to enter grades into my writer, I can just open up Canvas, my grading page, and it shows me all of the letter grades that I need to enter into my writer. And so it makes it just a little bit faster for me to enter grades rather than have to make sure that I'm computing them correctly.